that has bipartisan support. And then there's a petition that was filed with us to ask us to relocate 2 precincts in Darby Borough. And on all the polling place changes, our supervisor of our warehouse will be reporting on that. Next, we'll be discussing potential satellites.
Morning, Borough 2-2 and 2-1. We want our polling place changed from the high school, junior high school, to the rec center. It's more feasible for our handicapped people, which we have a lot of disabilities in Darby for the senior citizens. And they were having a hard time getting up into the school so that they could vote. A year and a half ago, we had one senior citizen that had fell over the rail, busted his head, and we had to call the ambulance. There are a lot of them that cannot get their wheelchairs up those steps. They're trying to say it's wheelchair accessible. It is not. There are 3 steps they have to go up to. It's a platform. And then the next step up to get into the building, it's a little higher. How can you do a wheelchair or a walker and you're a senior citizen? You can't do it. And we have an awful lot of senior citizens in Darby Borough that want to vote. I have been working with the senior citizens. I was on council for 8 years. I'm on civil service. I'm not on council anymore, but I'm still working with the senior citizens in Darby. Don't look at me like I'm not a senior citizen. I am. Don't worry, I am.
I wasn't sure.
But it's a lot of people that need help, and they still call my number, and I do whatever I can do for them. And right now, they want to go back to the rec because it's a flat way of going in. They don't have stairs to go up or anything. And where the polling place is, it was a gym. But you know how these big gyms at the junior highs and senior highs are so long. We have a lot of people that have breathing problems. They're on dialysis, and it's a lot of anomalies that they have. And we just want it back at the rec, and it's closer for them to get to, and they're more used to it. So that's why I put the petition in. Monday, I brought a paper in with a list of people that were senior citizens that has disabilities, and they want it back. I also have paperwork from some that I didn't get to get their names. So what do you want me to do with the paperwork that each person had written their own?
Oh, you're welcome to hand up the paperwork to Mr. Allen if you have some that you'd like us to consider.
Give it to this
with
gentleman?
Mr. Allen.
Okay.
And so I do see that the item for the petition is later in the agenda, and there is going to be a lot of public comment. And I do think that I'm aware of your petition, and I'm not sure that the voter service warehouse sees it all the same way. I mean, I personally am anxious about changing a polling location less than 30 days before such an important election that could lead to disenfranchisement. So I don't know if you are able to stay through, but
yes.
Okay, because if you aren't, I will figure out a way to move up. So if you do need to leave, we can move up that item so that she can be part of hearing the dialogue around that, because I think it's not going to be a while till we get to it. So I'm glad you can stay.
That's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
And I appreciate you coming, your service to the community, and thank you for coming to express your views.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Janice Davis, 48 North 10th Street in Darby Borough. My ward is 2-2. I've been on council probably over 30 years. I can tell you that. We had no problem. I don't even understand how our polling place was moved in the first place. We have no problem at the Darby Recreation Center. It's flat ground. We have 2 rooms, 2 separate rooms that we can put our polling place in. And it was just, and it's not personal, because people take this personal about this polling place, and it's not. It's personal to me because I care about our seniors and about our handicapped people. And that's what I'm concerned about, and that's it. That they're, and our people tell them, well, just do a mail-in, if you can't do it. But a lot of our seniors want to walk in and vote. They want to do their duty and walk in and vote. And I want them to, because I don't do mail-ins. I'd rather just walk in and vote. And it's just not accessible for our people. It's nothing against the school or nothing. It's just that it was just so much better, just flat ground. We have parking, we have handicap spots right in front of the place. It's flat ground, and we can't wait for another term. And I understand this election is very important, but we need to do it for this election, or I'm afraid that people won't show up. Because they go over there, we had to help people into the building, not me, because they had to help me in there. And then once you get in there, you got to walk all the way across the woman. We had a lady coming from dialysis, and she had to walk. Once we got her up the steps, then she had to walk like all the way across the floor to get to her polling, because for some reason, 2-1 was first and then 2-2 was second. So there was no signs out there. I mean, people were telling me that the school is handicapped. There was no signs out there for a direction of where you go to get to the handicap part. No signs whatsoever. So I'm asking and I'm begging that we change this polling place back. And I thank you very much.
Are you able to stay too for a period of time? If you have to leave, let me know. This is going to be a really important issue.
Yes, they don't put a ticket on our car.
Oh, okay. Well, if you do, if any of you who are here for that issue, if you have to leave, we can move it up, because I think we do need to talk to Ms. Dunn about the issues you've raised, and we'll have a response. So if you could stay, I'd like to continue with public comment for a period of time. But if you have an issue, I'll make sure everybody who wants to speak to it can talk, and then we'll have a dialogue about that one ahead of the agenda.
Oh, we can't do anything about Media Borough's parking enforcement, unfortunately.
I have to tell you, I got a spot right out front. I was driving and there's a truck, and I guess no one wanted to be near the truck. So I did I don't know if it's illegal, UE, and I just slipped right in, and I never happened to me before. I know, normally I have to park. I do have to park a little bit away. All right, please. Robert, do you want to call out the next three? Jim, do you want?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Janice Davis, and I am the Vice Chair of the Democratic Committee in Darby Borough. And I'm here to address also the movement of our voting poll. For one, I don't understand how one or two people can go behind the backs of all the residents in the community and have our voting poll move without no concern or consent from the community. That is just flat out wrong. It needs to be changed. Let me just say that. Two is, it was moved basically because somebody had a personal issue. I'm the son of the young lady, Janice Davis. She's a councilwoman, and I followed her lead with helping the community. You don't have to be a council person to be effective in your community. So on every election, I work the polls. There are some that say I bully people when they come to vote. That is a lie. What I do is I hand out literature like you're supposed to, and if they have questions, I answer the questions. Here at the Darby Borough Recreation Center, we've never had an issue. I also heard that we were moved because of parking. First of all, when people come to vote, we have a big parking lot. It does share with the police department, but there has never been an issue because people don't park and stay. People park and go. Now, working the polls at the junior high school, I have pictures here of the day in question of the last election where there were no signs directing people to a handicap entrance. I actually went and looked for the handicap entrance, and their handicap entrance isn't a handicap entrance. I'm not saying the school might not have one in the front where you can roll right in or walk right in, flat ground, but around the back of that gym where there are steps at, where I had to actually help the seniors up the steps, down the steps, all day long. I'm talking about a person that takes off from his paid job to come volunteer at these polls every election. And I don't, and to sit there and watch these people have to suffer because our poll was moved for no reason at all. Because somebody didn't like somebody, so they went behind the backs of everybody in the community. You talked about disenfranchising people. Moving that pole over there was disenfranchising our residents, and it's not right. The steps are deplorable. The rebar is hanging out. In fact, Miss Esther spoke about, I was there when the gentleman fell, leaned up against the bar fence, and it fell, gave way. Like, are we trying to help our residents to vote more safely, or are we just doing some personal stuff because you don't like somebody? Sir, we need.
Madam Chair, the speaker's time has expired. Would you like to extend?
All right, if you wanted to share the pictures with the board, you're welcome to provide them to Mr. Allen. Thank you, and I hope that you as well are able to stay for the discussion on that issue. Thank you.
I'm Andrea Knox. Lived there 64 years, and my family's been there since 1903. Good morning, everyone. My name is Paula Richards. I am from Darby Borough. I have lived there 64 years, and my family's been there since 1903, and I've been a public servant my entire life since I was 18 years old. I am the elected committee person for the second ward in Darby Borough. I'm requesting the election board to continue keeping the polling places for the second ward at Penn Wood Middle School. They are the safest, most convenient polling place we've ever had. And I thank you for making that decision a few years ago. It really has benefited the residents. You've only moved the polling place 25 feet from where the second ward, second precinct had voted for 50 years, since 1970 at the Borough Hall. 25 feet over, now they're in the school. We've experienced a lot of passion in our town, as you heard previously, but that's not true. That school is safe for the children. How can it not be safe for the seniors? It has to be by law handicap accessible. It is handicap accessible. I have given a packet to Ms. Dunn, Mr. Allen, and 3 packets for you on the board with recent pictures from yesterday, today, the day before, that show all of the handicap access entrances on both sides of the building and a huge parking lot for 75 cars that has 4 to 6 handicap spaces right at the door that's flat that goes right into the gymnasium. And if you don't want to use the gymnasium, you can use the cafetorium, which that also has a handicap access. It's completely safe. It's not safe at the recreation center. The recreation center is combined with our police department, and Darby Borough is the place where 11 municipalities, 11 police departments come day and night, 24 hours a day. We have the live scan, and all of the police officers that arrest their suspects in Alden, Yaden, Lansdowne, East Lansdowne, Clifton Heights, Fallcroft, Darby Township, Sharon Hill.
Madam Chair, the speaker's time has expired. Would you like to extend?
No, I get the point. You're saying this is where they bring people into custody.
Yes.
Okay. Are you also able to stay? I mean, you have a different point of view than already expressed, but this is going to be a big discussion with the Ms. Dunn and Mr. Allen. So I do want to, if you can stay, I hope you can. If you can't, everybody let me know.
If you could look at these
I do. I think that at the right time, I will ask that he bring all the materials brought by everybody here.
Thank you so much.
Go to Darby. I think
Darby
that's a
and
great idea.
and the
Since we've heard the public comment on that.
and as well as the the voter service centers first, if that's okay with the board.
Absolutely. Should we do the precinct polling place relocations first then?
Sure.
It's just as a group, because that way Ms. Dunn doesn't have to come up and down, up and down.
By way of introduction, we have with us here Jackie Dunn, who is the manager, the chief custodian, which is an antiquated term for the voting machine warehouse, and Olin Yancey. Together, both of them are heavily involved in analyzing polling place changes, finding the optimum location wherever possible, and also assessing as part of that the compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, because polling places, unlike other public facilities such as libraries, firehouses, what have you, are under stricter guidelines under the Americans with Disability Act, so that if something is grandfathered in as a library because it was built in the late 50s, it can't be grandfathered in as a polling place. So we to introduce first, let's talk about the Chester City 2 moves that we're having, and then also to address the Darby Borough examinations that you performed.
First to Darby Borough
I
two.
have a follow-up.
Oh, please. Yeah.
I know the other,
All right.
I know there are other polling places that are similar size that have as many precincts throughout the county, so it's not a unique problem. I know we'll find a good solution there. The other concerns raised, though, were the distance of the voters who live in those precincts to that location, and to the point that the judge of election raised about an alternative location that was presented to us on Thursday. Did I understand that correctly, that there's been an alternative location proposed? Has that been examined or considered? Is there issues with that third location?
Yes, I brought it up.
Can you step to the mic, Olin?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Yes, it was brought up and it actually passed inspection, but there's other things that we have to look into before we can actually make that officially a polling place.
Such as?
I haven't even been able to contact the person who owns it and also get confirmation on
2-1 and 2-2. I did receive a petition to ask for it to be moved to the Recreation Center where it was held before, expressing that Penn Wood Middle School is not ADA. It doesn't meet the requirements. I have sent a technician out every time I received an email or a phone call to make sure that it's accessible. And each time and each different technicians went out there and it is handicap accessible.
Okay. All right,
Hold on, I'm sorry. There's a period for public comment and there's a period for the people who work for the board to speak to the board. And this isn't a free-for-all. And if you don't contain yourselves, we're going to have to ask you to leave. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, so what was?
Oh, no. So, all right. So there were a lot of concerns that I heard. I jotted down some. I hope up here or others will remember. There were concerns about 3 steps. There was concerns about a ramp. There was concerns about a rebar.
Inadequate signage.
Inadequate signage, which that seems like a concern in every case. We get a lot, and if it happens, we can fix. Then wheelchair accessible, and then I guess there was a historical concern raised during public comment about how this happened. I think it's been at this location for a while. So if you could just walk through what you know about all of that. I know you weren't the warehouse supervisor then, but you were there. If you know any of that history, it would be helpful.
Well, there were concerns few elections back of the size, the parking, the police station with a lot of traffic.
You're talking about the rec center.
The rec center, yeah.
And this is only 2-2, right?
Yes. My next statement is going to be 2-1 has been moved to Penn Wood Middle School, I believe 4 years ago. And it passed ADA requirements. This location is with that location, same room, same school. So again, we did the survey. It has a ramp. It goes right into the parking lot, right up to the door, the hallway, and then you turn and the gymnasium's right there. And again, being so close to the election, I feel that it's not a good idea. I try not to move locations when it's this close to an election. I recommend it stay at Penn Wood Middle School. There is, to me, no reason it needs to be moved. It meets ADA requirements, and it is a school which we prefer to use as a polling location.
Do you happen to know the history? And I guess there's 2-1 and 2-2 2. Yeah, 2-1 and 2-2, there's different concerns perhaps about the history, but what history do you know about the original move, if at all? I mean, it was during COVID, right? So it was.
Yeah, I
There's so
I
many.
just came in on that election. I wasn't even with that department. I was just placed there.
Well, let's talk about then 2-2.
Okay.
You had mentioned that there were different concerns.
There were the concerns of the parking being too congested, too much trafficking going in and out due to the police station. So, and I received a few complaints about that and concerns, and they asked me to see if I can find a location. So I looked into Penn Wood Middle School, where 2-1 has already been. And so I placed 2-2 in with 2-1. Just, it's a school and it passes ADA requirements.
Okay, and so, just so I understand, so there were concerns raised, and that's what led you ultimately to move.
To look into finding
And the individuals in the audience who public comment, they indicated that they thought I'm going to characterize it, so I don't mean to do any injustice to your words, but they characterized those concerns as being perhaps overblown, that the police station is not a safety issue or a concern, that there was an opposing view on that. They had concerns about the parking and accessibility being better at the rec center. Can you speak to some of those issues?
When I received the concerns at the rec center, I have reached out to the two party leaders. And both party leaders agreed, and they were okay with moving it to Penn Wood Middle School. I have the email here with them telling me, yes, they would like it there. And that's what I based my decision off of, moving it.
And so are you making a recommendation related to the petition? You've already indicated that you recommend against Darby Borough 2-1 being moved, right? What is your recommendation as to 2?
I recommend Darby Borough 2-2 to stay at the Penn Wood Middle School.
And you did talk about, but just to be very specific, and particularly for you, sir, as you've looked at it, serious concerns were raised about the safety for wheelchair accessibility and other things, parking. Can you talk to that and what you noticed when you reviewed Penn Wood Middle School? They were saying it was not as accessible as the rec center.
Yes, and before I share that, let me let everyone know that Chief Custodian, she's really was concerned about this. Every time she got an email or anything about it, she sent one of us out. And we visited the school on a few occasions. She sent out a couple technicians to survey this place. Even the last time, 2 technicians went out. But I'm here to let everybody know that those steps, next to those steps, there's a parking lot. In that parking lot, it's more parking. There's also more handicapped parking spaces. And also from the parking lot, there's handicapped access to get into the gym.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
It is true, sir. And
Well,
have video
I would,
and
We're not doing that.
pictures.
I
We're not doing that. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the other members of the board about this? Okay.
One point I would just make from the legal side is that there is a process here, and anytime a polling place is moved, a notice is posted at the polling place at least 5 days in advance of the proposed move, and that is then addressed. It's on the agenda here at the Board of Elections meeting. That agenda is publicly posted both in papers of general circulation and on the website multiple days before the meeting. All of the meetings since 2020 have been broadcast both live on, as you can see, the equipment here, and are saved and available through the website, if I remember correctly, to watch later if you happen to be not available during the time of the board meeting itself to watch it live. So there are a number of steps being taken towards clarity, transparency, and advance notice for any polling place move that's being considered, other than the type of thing that comes up every once in a while where a tree falls on some polling place 3 days before election and we have to move it on an emergency basis.
Right.
I just want to emphasize that we've been at 2-1 at Penn Wood Middle. This will be our 9th consecutive election. And before this autumn, late this summer, we weren't receiving complaints. For 2-2, this will be our 4th consecutive election. So we have a couple of items here where we're going to move polling places because we have to. because we're returning to the original location that was used in the last presidential election in one case, and because we were, the landlord of the other site refuses to allow us to be a polling place in that. This is not one of those cases. And to move voters 25 days before when we don't have to, I back the chief custodian on this 110%.
Well, I mean, I have expressed my concerns about the timing of this. If there, and I agree with Mr. Allen and Ms. Dunn that when we have emergencies, we need to move polling places this close to an election. That's unfortunate, and it's always a concern to make sure the voters are aware. But I think in the long term, we talked about in Chester. In long term, just thinking about this, I would have asked. It sounds like you've examined it many times, but if we can examine again the idea of whether or not. Maybe it's not 2-1, maybe it's 2-2, but whether any polling locations should or could be moved appropriately in a timely way, or it needs to be just better for the voters, right? That's it. So you will make the judgment on that, and I'm not prejudging that. It sounds like under the circumstances where we have an accessible location that's been used for 4 cycles and for 9 cycles, 25 days before the election, absent a accessibility issue at that location, sir, I'm just not going to, I don't want to disrupt voters in that way. I do think it's very risky when we do that because every time we move a location, someone will go to the wrong location. And every time that happens, even when we put out notices, I mean, we have the Radnor notices, we've gone above and beyond, done 3 notices instead of 1, and given notices to the community members who are putting out notices. I drive by Radnor and see the signs that say, do you know where your polling location is? You know, and here's a QR code or whatever it is. So we just need to take that. But your long-term concerns about the move should be considered again, as I know that they will. So that's my view on it.
And I'll just further commit. I make the rounds on election day. I visit polling places that I have questions about to see how they operate, on the day of. And I commit, I will stop by Penn Wood Middle School and I will check it out, on election day, put my own eyes on it for consideration in a future election. I believe that people are coming to us with valid concerns. I believe that you guys are doing great work in doing the inspections and making sure we're compliant. And that everything is done according to Hoyle. But I do want to take your concern seriously. I will be there on election day. I will swing by and I will see, what it actually looks like in operation. So.
Thank you. Okay. Should we move on that is an isolated issue that we need to move, whether or not there's a motion?
Given that there was a petition filed, I would recommend or request that the board please consider a motion to continue to have to use Penn Wood Middle School for Darby Borough 2-1 and 2-2.
Does anybody on the board make that motion, adopt that motion? I'll adopt that motion for the purposes.
I'm sorry, so moved.
Okay.
Oh, second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion as stated by Mr. Allen, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. That motion passes. Thank you. All right.
Next are Chester City 2-4 and Chester City 5-2. And this is one of those situations where we had no choice but to move because it was in a ballroom and the owners declined to allow us to be a polling place this time. Jackie?
Okay.